to the Tom Ward Show, where we interview the biggest names in the business. And today we've got Michael Gruen, co-founder of TalentX Entertainment, investor, manager, influencer, unrecognized member of Sway House, and probably the best networker I've ever seen. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. I'm definitely no influencer, but I appreciate the semantical compliment.
No, actually, you're about a Bang energy drink deal away from being a full-fledged influencer. The Hollywood Fix interviews you. You collab with other big influencers.
Not really. Who do I collab with?
Sway House guys?
No. And also, I own an energy drink company, so I'm definitely not doing a Bang energy deal. But
well, when you started out, I mean, the goal wasn't to be interviewed by the Hollywood Fix,
I still turn down. I mean, you know this. You've been asking me for months. I turn down most everything I get. I don't know. I don't like being in front of the camera. I think that it ends up like making you kind of have ulterior motives on focusing on what you got to do. I think that people that are celebrity managers do have more leverage in the marketplace sometimes. But like you look at people like Scooter and others that have been able to kind of like manage their miles alone with Kygo. They kind of use their somewhat fame to leverage it. But I look more at the people like Guy Oziri and Andrew Gertler manager Shawn Mendes, who kind of just say behind the scenes and have never tried to create this public persona. I mean, obviously they're still pretty well known in the industry, but they're not public figures in the same regard as like Scooter.
But dude, you are great on social. So like you may not like being in front of the camera right now, but like behind the camera with your cell phone on Twitter, you're fucking outstanding. Everyone go follow Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I have fun with it. I really don't well, Twitter and TikTok are different things. So Twitter, I usually just comment when I'm like bored or having fun with it. Then I'll kind of tweet. My TikTok room is pretty strategic, I would say. Usually it's to defend friends of mine, and usually it's also when I'm relatively bored. So if I'm on like the shitter, I'll go on there and debate a little bit and have some fun with it. Usually it's like starts off with like a small purpose, and then I'm kind of doing it for fun. But I do enjoy a little banter back and forth. It brings me back to my days in Jewish school in 8th grade.
Well, we'll get to that. I didn't know you grew up in an Orthodox family. I know everything about Michael Gruen, but I don't want to talk about that right now. We'll get to that. We'll go through the creation of the Michael Gruen we know. But first, I want to start at Sway, because most people, that's how they know you, is Sway, through TalentX.
I would say nobody knows me, but
dude, that's bullshit. I asked on TikTok. I'm interviewing Michael Gruen, hit me with some questions, and I got like 200 questions, and my followers on TikTok follow me because I, interview influencers, so they know exactly who you are.
That's
so
sweet.
You are known.
Not really, but I'm glad that you think so. Anyway, what's the question?
Anyway, Sway House, how did that idea even come to you?
It happened really naturally. That's the funny thing. Like, me and Josh had met at Bryce Hall's house. Randomly. I've been friends with Bryce for it's like 4 years now. The context I met him was very much like I moved to LA, was working in tech. Bryce is a cool kid. At the time he had, like 60,000 likes on Instagram, like really not anything, substantial. I was looking for some good friends out here that were my age and working in tech. The people you meet are either like your age, but a little weird and kind of, in their own world a little bit, or older. And I kind of wanted some friends that were, normal. I mean, I come from New York City. Like, I'm used to a city life. I'm not a partier, but I do enjoy like a good dinner and hanging out and shooting the shit. I mean, this, we've hung out a few times, and, I enjoy that stuff. And I didn't really have that out here for the first, 3-4 months I moved. So someone introduced me to Bryce. We hung out a lot, and he was just always the dude who honestly had my back. Like, I can't tell you how many times like we'd go out on a Friday or Saturday night and like they'd be like, "Oh, you can come in, Bryce," because they knew Bryce or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, but this guy can't." And he'd be like, if I'm in, he's going in with me." And he was always the guy. Like, even when we'd be at his house, he'd be like 4 cars going, and he'd make sure that I'm in the car with him. Like, he always took care of me and was always like a really good friend to have as an ally, and kind of a little club promoter for me a little bit, and top notch club promoter right there. So from there, Jaden had moved in with him. I was at the house randomly, I didn't even know what TikTok was at the time. I met Josh in the same room as, when I was Bryce. I started off not liking Josh. We actually hated each other at first. I made fun of him for being kind of a douchebag, and then he went back at me, and we kind of chirped at each other for a bit. Eventually, we boxed. He punched me in the nose. We said no head punches, and I got him in the corner, was just like socking him, and he just clocked me right in the nose. And then we hadn't really talked much after that. I went back to working, in tech, and I had an idea of building this like technology platform, and it wasn't supposed to be one to make money. It was more as like a favor. And what this would do is, because I was always a guy that influencers would ask for relationships. So they'd be like, yo, can you introduce me to this music executive or this manager, this Hollywood guy? And it ended up being, number one, I'd make no money on it, and it was very much like a favor. But it would take up way too much of my time because I was getting hit up, 5 to 10 times a day. And if you want to do it right, you're like managing the relationship, right? Like I want to make sure that if I introduce, Bryce to somebody, they're going to reply and they're on top of it, right? Because a lot of times, they'll reply once and then they stop. It became a process, and it was like really difficult for me. And I wanted to create this like democratized platform where, let's just say, Tom, you're the influencer. I give you the code to an account. I want to be very exclusive, like only people that I know. And you can upload us. If you click music, you upload a song, it goes out to all my A&R relationships. But instead of it being like an intro, it would send it out anonymously. So my platform would send it to, let's just say, one of my friends whose name is Jason Flom, who's CEO of Lava Records, founder of Lava Records. It would just say, hey, here's a song from the platform. Do you want to click it? He clicks it. He loves it. He clicks accept. And then an intro was made. So I basically brokered it. And if he says no, he just ignores the email. And it removes also that awkwardness, because if I intro, someone's going to have, like, they don't want to ignore my intro, so they're going to reply out of me. That puts them in a weird spot, right? And I don't have time to, like, email them first and do, like, that whole thing. So this would just make it seamless as fuck and allow people to
get in your world.
Not in my world. It's more about getting in these other people's world they want to get into. But this was never going to be something I did full time. And I went over to Josh and I just said, yo, Josh, like, I want to do this platform. It's very much like a favor. I don't plan on making any money on this. I had an investor who was going to give me $100,000 to build it and pay for dev, just because he thought it was a nice thing to do for people. And it was going to be, if there was a brokerage. So for example, Josh uploaded a song, it's sent out to a record label and they signed it or something along those lines, I would get a commission, like an intro commission. We haven't even gone into what the structure would be exactly and how to structure that, but that's essentially like where it was trying to go. And then, as Josh and I kind of got along more and more, we thought of something a little bit, kind of going more traditional. But even then, he ignored me. When I first met him, like the night was over, he ignored me for like a month. He thought it was like.
And now people think you're in love with them. I got that all the time. Ask Michael why is he in love with Josh? You've come very far.
Well, so I'm sitting with him, like after the house, we exchanged numbers, and like that was pretty much it. I didn't even know what TikTok was. Like legitimately, they were telling me all about it, and I was like, it sounds like bullshit to me. So I left the house like that night at like 4 or 5 a.m. I went to work the next day, like nothing of it. I had hit up Josh and said, yo, I'd love to chat more on like building this, because I wanted to have him as like the face of this platform that I was talking about. I wanted like someone reputable to be the face and someone in the new generation. And he kind of was like, yeah, and then kind of flaked on me for about a month. One day I'm sitting at a Rams game, and I'm like sitting on the field. I don't know if you saw where I sit, but there's like a little couch on the field on the sideline. So I'm sitting in there, and it's like super fucking loud. And I get a call from Josh. I'm like, what the fuck? He hasn't called me in forever. I pick up the phone. He goes, dude, like, I want to change my Instagram from Josh Richards with 2 double Z's. It used to be, instead of an S, 2 Z's. As he would call it, Z in Canadian language. And I was like, yeah, I got you, bro. But I said, on the condition is when I do this for you, give me an hour of your time. So I want an hour phone call with you. So I didn't like that he kind of flaked. I thought that was kind of fucked up. And I wanted to like, just be like, end of the day, like, hey, business is business. Like you could say no, so it's not fit for you, but don't be a douche. Like be an adult and come and, say like, yo, like this isn't for me right now. Like I'm busy or not really interested. We ended up talking, and I think like he saw how quickly I got his Instagram done. He's like, oh, clearly he knows people that are, high up on Instagram, and was like a little intrigued. I mean, you got to remember, like, this is the time before any agents were interested in this space. Like this is like pre everything. This is pre WME even signing anybody. This is pre all the houses. Like this is when TikTok was like just like an upcoming irrelevant platform.
What year are we talking? Like 2 years ago?
2 years ago now, yeah.
2019?
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, Soy House opened in January 2020. At that point, Josh and I were pretty close. So, you're talking like 7 months before that minimum, probably a little more. But anyway, like me and him, from there, like we started talking almost every day. And that's when he kind of, became something. But even that's interesting because like when I first took him to New York, this is before anything happened. It was just like early, right after he just started talking to me again. I took him to Gary Vaynerchuk's office and I took him to meet few of my friends. One of those people that he met turned out to be the lead investor in Annie. Gave us a very significant amount of money, upwards of over $500,000. And he was like, at the time, I was like, why am I doing these stupid meetings? He didn't understand it at all. And then 6 months later, when the guy, threw him over $500,000 check, I go to him, I go, this is why you take those meetings. You never know what'll come of them when you're meeting with these types of people. Don't think you're above anything. Like sit down and listen because you never know what'll happen. He made good impressions on people. Until this day, he's close to Gary. He's in Gary's orbit. He's close with, this guy who's invested and other people that he met from that meeting, from that day of meetings.
So you got the Sway set up. You got Sway set up.
No, I didn't even answer the question.
No, yeah. So you say how you met Bryce and Josh.
Finally,
how'd you put the group together?
So the group put itself together. Sorry, I rambled, but the group put itself together. So Josh, the reason why I said all that whole backstory was because Josh and Jaden, Josh was kind of like just couching on people's couch, right? Like just couch jumping. He then went back home. Jaden was living with Bryce, and then Peyton Moormeyer was living there as well. Anthony was kind of like house jumping there too, and so was Griffin. Then they kind of stayed at one of my friend's couches the next time they came back. Then Bryce lost his house with Jaden. They needed to get a new house. So it very much happened like naturally. It was like Jaden needed a house to stay in. Bryce needed a house to stay in. Josh wanted to move to LA. Griffin wanted to move to LA. So it was kind of like just this like natural putting together that occurred. And I didn't do that. In fact, one night I was at Bryce's house and I woke in Bryce's room and I look in his bed. It's like Chase Hudson sleeping there. And I didn't know who the fuck Chase Hudson was. It's like his passport's like right on the table. And I just go to Bryce. I'm like, who the fuck is this kid? Like just like sleeping in your bed, knock the ass out. Like, who is this kid? At the time, I don't know who the fuck this is. And it turned out it was, kid became a pretty big something over there. But I had no clue when I met. Like, all these kids to me were just like, I was like hearing them talk, and I'm just like, you guys are delusional. It's like, they're just delusional.
Is it crazy when you look back to now, like how far they've come? I mean, now they're investing in companies. Yeah. I saw your tweet today that, Griffin or Josh is on the Rolling Stone advisory board. Griffin's with Newsweek. They get major press. I mean, could you imagine how far you've come in just 2 years?
So first of all, it's less than 2 years because I'll go that in a second. But number one, the answer with that is somewhat yes, somewhat no. So I'm not surprised where Josh is. I always knew he was something special. When I started talking to him, essentially just for backstory, I called him, first time I met him, I called him a loser because of some things he was saying to his face. I just said, you're like a fucking loser. And he started like talking to me and like, he was like very taken aback. But then I started like saying to him a little bit. Yeah. We didn't know who I was. And, he's wearing this Louis Vuitton little like blue jacket thing. And I go, dude, who the hell do you think you are? Like, you're 17 years old. He's like, I'm making this amount of money a day. I'm like, I open up my Bitcoin one. I go, this is $12 million in Bitcoin. And mind you, this is like 2019, right? Christ. So like Bitcoin, that now is a lot more than that. And he was just like, what the hell? And then I kind of put him in his place. And he was telling me like, before tour, he didn't have money. Then he kind of went on tour, got some money and was like spending it stupidly. And now he's like beyond that. And he told me his dad's a math teacher teaching calculus. His mom's a speech pathologist. And I just started like talking about like just his theories on how social media operates, kind of the tech side of it. And I realized right away this kid's got something special. Like he didn't think like the normal influencer that I've come across. He thought very, very analytically and very numerically. So everything was in terms of numbers. I get this amount of views per this, and if I do that, I can get this amount of money. Like he thought very like analytically and algebraically. And that's when I kind of knew I was like, this kid's something and this kid's special. And I was like the first person to come from real background of like real technology or business to say, yo, like, let's sit down and like, let's build something. And that was what was interesting about it, right? When I went over to Josh, he just thought I was full of shit. But then he started like hearing my name everywhere from like people he was talking to, like people like heads of Viacom down. He would like meet them, be like, yo, do you know this kid? And be like, oh, everyone would be like, yeah. And he just started going like, who the hell is this? And that's kind of when it started. It was like he realized right like in the middle of this that I knew a lot of people when I come from a real background. And that was what made him, I sat him down one morning and I said, look, dude, I said, like, I've made a lot of money doing a lot of different things. And I'm telling you that if you sit down and you focus on what you're building, you could do it too. It's not magic. It's just hard work. I said, the other people you're dealing with, all these like managers in the space that are like phonies, I said, they've never built shit. I said, none of these guys have made $1. So they make, 200. So the good ones make 200 grand a year. Let's say they bonused out at 50 to 100K, like 300 grand, dude. It's like, I piss on that. And I wasn't saying that to be an arrogant asshole. I was saying that because I knew he could build that too, right? Like some people are meant to just build in a company and work for somebody. Some people are meant to build on their own. I knew Josh was meant to build on his own, and I didn't want him to become a captor of the big brands. Like that's the worst thing people don't understand. It's the biggest mistake. Do not allow yourself to become captive to brands. Like they're not the answer to your problems. Like don't sell yourself. It's like ultimately people that know how to make money don't sell themselves to become the endorser of 100 different products. Like build your own stuff, like make real money. You don't get rich working for other people ever. Sure. It's like go look at every actor that's built their brands up. It's whether it's Jessica Alba with Honest Company,
George
all
Clooney,
them, every single George Clooney with Casamigos. No, but even Miles Teller with Long Drink, right? Like you go down the list. It's every single Skims with Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner's makeup. They've all made their money from bigger brands that they've built. And it's not because they've gotten paid, $100,000 or $1 million from, XYZ company, 50 Cent, Vitamin Water, right? David Wright, Vitamin Water. You go down the list, it's pretty wild, man. Steven Spielberg made more money from, I forget the company he sold, but he, from his company than he did from directing movies. And that's like Lucasfilm. George Lucas made more money selling Lucasfilm, selling his entity than he did producing these films. And that's what people don't understand.
Dr. Dre made more on headphones than he ever made as a producer or an artist. Like not even close.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you go look at them, who are the moguls of our generation in this world? Who are they? It's like Jay-Z, right? You look at them, there's very, very few. People like throw these names around like, there's very few moguls. And to me, it's like, it's mogul or bust, right? Like as someone who, I don't care about $20,000 commission. It means nothing to me, and that's why I always tell them, it's like, if I'm doing you guys a $25,000 deal or whatever, like just do it. I don't want to hear a word and don't complain. Like if you take it, I don't want to have to chase you about it because I don't care about it, right? Like it means nothing to me. I'm doing it solely as a favor for them. There's this acronym called LEO, license, endorse, own. And that's the most important part of the business. If you master those three things, you will be a billionaire, right? In this industry, if you're already famous. License, you want to make sure you have a very fair share of licensing. We have a couple deals in the works on that space that you'll see in the next couple of weeks where we're doing a lot of licensing deals. Endorse, so it's a brand deals, et cetera. Owners investing and building. And if you have a very fair share of each, you're guaranteed to be successful.
Was your goal early on, hey, I'm going to make these kids moguls? I mean, is that how far down the road you were looking?
Yeah, I had a hypothesis. I said that no social media star has ever been built correctly. I'm going to create the first pure social media billionaire. Right? There's Kylie, but Kylie's in a very different breed, reality, et cetera. Yeah. I'm going to take the first purebred social media star and turn him into a billionaire. And that's the hypothesis I've been running with, and I don't think I'll be legitimately right. I don't think it'll be a billion, but I do think it'll be pretty close.
So how did you go back to Bitcoin, right? So how did you have money how old were you at the time? 19, 20 years old when all this
I bought it when I bought my first Bitcoin at 13.
Okay. So that's how you made all your money, so you can sit back and pick your projects at 19 years old?
I mean, sort of. Like I've always been a hustler. It's never stopped me. I've always looked for ways to make money. In the beginning, I made my first $1 million selling internet gold via like video games, building out accounts and all that. Yeah, I mean, I made millions in a lot of different industries, and that's been the biggest blessing for me. It's like I've not mastered, but been able to make decent money in a lot of different places. Whenever people tell me like, "Oh, Josh built you," I just laugh. I'm like, okay, like you clearly haven't Googled me, because I've been involved in crypto, both on the building side and on the investing side. I'm a co-founder in a company called Frax, FRAX, which is a cryptocurrency stablecoin, partially backed reserve. It's like one of the first ones, and that's a market cap right now soaring on that. So, it's like when people just say, "Oh, you got built," I'm just like, have fun thinking that, dude. Like, there's a reason. Everyone, I get tech tagged and like, Josh should fire you. I'm like, okay, like have fun. Like, nobody's taken the interest in Josh the way I have, and it's just my brother. Like, we live together. He's my best friend in the whole world. Him and Griff, like, they're my best friends, and I get to work with people I've known forever, like Bryce, who I really, really appreciate. And It couldn't be any better, but I don't do it for the traditional reasons that I think most people work for.
Well, so you that's another question. So you work with those three guys, Bryce, Josh, and Griff. They're your guys. You don't seem to like have much involvement on the other guys. Is that by design, or is it, hey, I want to take these three guys and not take 100. I want to focus on three and really make them something instead of giving 5% of my time to a bunch of different people?
I wouldn't say it's that. It takes a certain type of person to understand the value of equity, right? Most people would rather take the quick cash. So it's not about numbers of people. It's more about types of people. I look for the people that I know that I can really shape and grow. And, Josh right away showed me from the minute I met him that equity is something he understood, or at least superficially, and wanted to learn more. And Griffin's the same way, Bryce, same way. Noah, not as much. Like Noah's very much trying to be a Hollywood star. And that's great. And we have like a team around him, through our company and through WME that are going to be are amazing for him. Everyone's got a different goal, right? Like it's not a wrong or right way. Some people want to be an actor and want to be the best actor in the world. And it's not my skill set. There's other people in my team that are great at that and have done that. And his manager is a guy named Maxwell Mitchison, who was an agent at A3 and ICM. And he's great. He's been nonstop, just building block by building block, getting him to where he needs to be. I still throw him stuff when it makes sense. Like if we have stuff going on, I'll include him. But his core focus is on being the best actor in the world. And I know he'll get there.
If you go back, you were raised in a strict Orthodox family, which is wild. How Orthodox? Were you doing the film?
Yeah, we did everything. My brother's a rabbi, an Orthodox Jewish rabbi in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad's fully Orthodox. And my mom's very, very, very Orthodox. Yeah.
And at an early age, you decided you were kind of going on a different path. How did that go down in the family? Are you very religious now? I see you quoting, quotes from the Bible and stuff, but do you go to temple or do you do any of that now?
I try. It's definitely a little different now. My parents were always very, very, very accepting of anything. And I was always different. Like even at 12 years old, I was, working and meeting up with different celebrities and all that. And my dad was always like, whatever. My dad's philosophy was very much, if you could arrange it and figure out how to do it and, it doesn't get back to me, I don't give a shit. Do what you want. So he was always, same thing with school. I was like, he never cared about my grades. It was like, if I don't get a call from the school and everything's fine, I don't care. And he always knew like I was entrepreneurial. And I think that was his way of like really embracing that, which was entrepreneurs figure shit out and they don't complain and they just get around. They know how to make things work. And he's like, if you can figure out how someone else do your homework, I don't care. Like, I just don't want to hear about it. Don't want to know about it. Do your thing. And that gave me, a lot of freedom to, number one, learn how to be an entrepreneur early. Like even I treated school like entrepreneurship, right? Like even how I would get it done. And my school hours were, Orthodox school people don't realize this, from 7:30 in the morning until 8, 9 at night.
Holy shit.
They do that because they don't want you hanging out with girls, right? They don't want you.
My God.
They don't want. Well,
this
yeah. So figuring, it's a culture, man. Like there's.
So do you go up to 8th grade and then do you go to a different high school, or how's it work?
Yeah, well, a lot of the elementary schools have the high schools like attached. So I went to college when I was in the end of 9th grade. Okay. I went straight to college. So I kind of ditched a lot of it. And that was also part of it. My dad's like, I don't care. If you graduate high school, you can go to college. Like, do whatever you want. Just figure it out on your own. It was very much like, I'm here to support you, but I'm not here to help. Figure it out. And that taught me to be very, very resourceful. Like when I was in 9th grade, dude, I was somehow like friendly with the Deputy Secretary of Education, right, under Obama. I think it was Robert King, if I'm not mistaken, is his name, or something King. And I would like harass him. Like I found his email somewhere, I would harass him. Like we became friendly. He would help me out. Got a bunch of calls together, and I just like figured things out. Nothing was ever impossible. My dad always tell me, if someone tells you no, go find the person that'll tell you yes, right? Like
it's good advice.
If the VP of marketing, if the director of marketing tells me no, I go to the VP. If the VP tells me no, I go to the CMO. If the CMO tells me no, I go to the CEO. And sometimes they tell me to fuck off. And be like, why the fuck are you being an asshole going all the way up? And sometimes they embrace it and they love it. And, it's worked out really well for me. What kind
of business is your dad in? What do he do?
What does he do? Talk about it.
You don't want to get into that. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. He's a super private guy.
Is he in the business world? In some capacity?
Yeah, but nowhere near where I'm at. I can give you the general the general things. He's in touring. So like tourism in New York. And then technology of tourism. So he builds a lot of the technology that a lot of these tourism companies are using.
Okay.
To whether it's ticketing, et cetera, like a lot of the software and hardware. And he's in real estate. Very, very, very traditional Jewish CPA type people. That's when people go oh, did you gain connection with your dad? It's like, dude, my dad doesn't talk to anybody. My dad sits home and works and then goes to bed. My dad's not the kind of, my dad doesn't even still I look on Clubhouse because it tells you how many people you have in common. He has one person on Clubhouse that has his number in his cell phone. It's probably one of my cousins. So he really doesn't give a shit.
But he spotted in you probably because he knows he's an entrepreneur. He probably saw that in you and goes, okay, he's not going to become a rabbi. He's not going to run the family business. He's going to go out and run around and do his own thing.
Right away, he knew that I was going to be, unique and different. And he was my mom didn't get used to it for a long time. My mom is super traditional Jewish. My dad grew up in an interesting household where he understood a lot of this stuff. Understood just wanting to be different. So he always kind of embraced it. My mom always hated it, and my dad would always be the one to calm her down. And think, the thing is also rabbis don't really get it either, right? Rabbis are very much used to one traditional, one way to do things. And my dad had to sometimes either get yelled at by rabbis or explain things. It was always a challenge. I'll give you one quick funny story. When I was in 9th grade or 10th, I don't remember, because I was always doing Orthodox school in the morning and then did college at night. My rabbi started shitting on a guy named Jeff Wilpon. He used to own the Mets, and he was just going off on him. And I just raised my hand, and I was always a snarky kid, but I never I was always very respectful. And I raised my hand. I go, Rabbi, I just want you to know, I know the Wilpons, and you're saying bad things about them, but you don't actually know them. You've never met them, so I think it's inappropriate. And I did that in front of the whole class. And obviously that's a humble brag type scenario.
Yeah, of course.
A little bit of an asshole. And he kicked me out of class and said, "You're not coming back until your dad comes to school and talks to me." I'm like, "Oh no, here we go." So I call my dad, right? I go to I go to the principal's office. I call my dad. Dad comes to school. He's all pissed. Why are you bothering me? He comes down. The rabbi sits down with the principal and my dad and me and goes, "We have a problem, Mr. Gruen." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Your son's a compulsive liar." My dad's like, "How's he a compulsive liar?" I don't know. He's saying, it was the second day of school. He's like, "Oh, your son's saying he knows the Wilpons." What are you talking about? My dad's like, "Can you leave the room?" I leave the room. It turns out my dad's like, "Yeah, he's not lying. He went to their house for one of the holidays, but yeah." So, it's always been that weird situation for my family handling me for sure.
Wait, and I've been in sales my whole life, and I respect the hustle, and I come from the East Coast, so I come from a similar background, so I get it, but I also realize how rare that is. I mean, the fact I heard the story I love about you is you're 12 or 13, you get nosebleed seats to the basketball games, the cheapest ones, because all you're there to do is meet NBA execs, where me, I would go just to get autographs from the players. I was laser focused on this. Where do they come in at, talking to security guards and shit, where you're doing what no kid's doing. I mean, what even made you think of that?
I randomly met the CEO of the team, and he was shocked that I even recognized him one time. And it kind of just made me have an epiphany of so this is my end, right? This is my end. And the end of the day is the CEO can get me the tickets or whatever I need to meet the players if he wanted to, right? So if I'm nice to the right people and I get to know the right people and they appreciate me and respect me, then maybe I could eventually do what you wanted to do anyway, right? And I did that. And you go to Barclays Center, every single senior exec used to know who I was, every single one. Brian Basslow was the head of ticket sales, Brett Yormark, who was the CEO, Billy King, who was the general manager. Everybody knew who I was. And from there, I got to know some of the players really well and still have some friends there. But then you would randomly see me speed on the floor. I used to have whatever I wanted at Barclays Center, I was able to get. Because one time you meet one of the agents who loves you. I got to meet this guy named Javon Phillips, who was one of the first agents I met there. And he worked for a company called Excel Sports. And he managed Darren Williams. So, one time my friend drew all this really sick thing of Darren Williams. And my friend quickly ran in the locker room, got it signed. Shit I was able to pull off at 12 years old. Were just abnormal.
You're one of the best networkers I've seen. And for me, when I network, and I think what people get wrong is I try to, because I get DMs all the time. Tom, can you help get me verified? Can you write an article about me? It's always shit like that.
Yep.
But it's very rare that somebody offers something. Hey, Tom, love what you do. Want to learn more? Do you have an editor who could put TikToks together or something? I always find it's better. And I do the same thing when I try to network with somebody. I don't lead with, hey, can you get me a job? Even though if that's what I want, because I'm just, people ask them
but there's your problem, Tom. There's your problem. You want something, you're just hiding it. I don't want anything.
Yeah, of course. Oh,
no, but I don't want anything.
You didn't
want anything. Want anything. No, I never want anything. It's never, I never want anything. That's why
are you
people
talking
sense that. Because I know that down the line, it'll become something, right? It's not about the today. If I want something right now, I ask straight up and I don't hide the ball. I think that's where people don't understand. It's like people sense the hiding of the ball. Don't hide the ball. I always just, if I'm emailing you being like, I want to chat, it's genuinely because I really am interested in what you're building, right? Like it's sometimes it means eventually I'll put in a check for investment. Sometimes it means I want to introduce somebody to somebody, I just really don't do it with any ulterior motive. Other than learning and information. Like if I'm, and that's the unique part of what I've done. It's what I've always done, by the way. Like when I was 13, 14 years old, I never asked for anything. Never asked, man. Like provide value every time. If you keep providing value, your reputation becomes providing value. And even as a 12-year-old, I was figuring out ways to provide value. It's like when I met this athlete, when I was like 12 or 13 years old, he was a backup offensive lineman for the New York Giants. And he wasn't even sure he was going to make the team. I said, look, dude, so let me work with you. I said, if I make you some brand deals, throw me whatever you want commission. Like I'm easy. And if and I said, no contract, like no risk, right? If I do it, good. I used to call up every single company in the world. Like I'd just phone call, email. I got him like local pizza shop meet and greets for $5,000. I got him local pottery places for $5,000-10,000.
Nice.
Then I called up the CEO of Modell's, which is like the local sporting goods store that sadly just went bankrupt. But
I remember
it's one of the most massive. Yeah, I got meet and greets there. I somehow got in touch with Mitchell Modell, the CEO, and his team got so pissed because before I was talking to his team, and someone got me an intro to the CEO, and they were like, "Yeah, don't email him direct." Then Mitchell saw the email and was like, "You don't tell him what to do. It's my guy." It's still today, by the way, causes I call stirs because, I don't want to say which company, but there's a really large company, social media company right now where, they don't really like, a lot of these social media companies don't really like Sway, right? Sway's like very masculine, it's controversial.
Drama.
So a lot of these companies, especially with the lower level staffs, really don't like us. And there's this one social media platform where I know the founder and the CEO. And
I think we know who you're talking about.
Who?
Triller?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Where I know the CEO, and they were basically like every time we asked for anything, no. I was like, okay, I'm just go above your head. So I emailed the CEO and I'm like, yo, like Josh Griff want to talk to you. Let's chat. And he got on the phone with them. Love Josh, love Griff. Love BFF, started like hanging out. We were talking for 30, 45 minutes, just shooting the shit. And then I emailed him with everything we talked about that, he said he would help us with. And I got back down to the people that, were saying no to everything. And they got livid.
Of course, you went over their head, of course.
Yeah. But it was like, first of all, no one shit on you. We just said, you guys said no, which is true. We have, it's in writing, but also just like, what do you want me to do? I've known the CEO for a while. We're not like best friends. We're friendly. Like the guys had, wanted to chat with him and pick his brain. Like, you never know who knows who. It's like, don't treat people with disrespect because you never know you never know who knows who. And nothing, we never say anything bad, but it doesn't look great for you when your name is directly said as like the person who said no. And then, now your boss is the one handling it and you're on CC as like an FYI as opposed to being the person to handle it. This doesn't look good for you. Like, people really underestimate the power of just being a good person. And sometimes I fall, being 22 years old and successful and knowing a lot of these people, like I fall victim to it too, of being, an asshole or ungrateful, etc. But I do try, when people treat you with respect, to treat them back with respect. I'm blunt, but I'm also very, very helpful, right? Like when people pitch me ideas, I'm not, some VCs will go, yo, like we appreciate it. Hit me back in a couple months for an update. I go, like, this sucks. This part is bad, but if you change it, like, let me know. I'm interested. It's like, I hate people that beat around the bush. I think that I understand why it's politically correct, but it also misleads people, and doesn't really teach them like how bad their actual, how bad their idea is or something. And people go like, okay, well, I'm going to call you when I'm wrong. I'm like, do it, dude. I'm happy to be wrong. One founder, I said no to his company. He's like, well, I'm going to come back to you on $1 billion company and I'm going to throw it in your face. I said, dude, I'll run around Central Park in a tutu. I'm like, in the winter. I'm happy for you. Like, I'm the first person to be happy for you. Like, I don't care. Like, everyone can be successful. Steve Cohen, who owns the Mets right now, he told me a piece of advice that's always stuck with me. He said, people view negotiations a winner and loser, but he said that's already like a false narrative. Because what actually is, it should be two winners. If a good deal is done,
it should. Absolutely, I completely agree.
And that's how I try to live my life. It's not about like, there's plenty of wealth in the world. There's always more money being created, more money in the economy being pumped. I don't need you to lose for me to win. And I don't need any manager or agent to lose for me to win. That's the thing. Like, I'm friends with a lot of the agents and the managers in the space that are good, at least. And I love them. It's like, let's share together. Let's talk. If they try to steal a client or something, then, I might rain down a little hell. But, if everything's in good terms, like, why? Like, me and Andrew Gertler, who manages Shawn Mendes, I love that guy. Like, that dude's become, brother to me the last couple of months, like, just chatting and helping out the guys, Josh and Griff. Like, he manages Shawn, built Shawn. I'm like, why wouldn't I want him in our camp, right? He built the only social media star to really break it. Really break. Like, there's others, but he's the one who really broke. He's like a celebrity. Even Reed, Mr. Beast's team, and Ezra Cooper's team, like, these guys are gangsters. Like, why wouldn't we want that in our camp? Like, we're doing deals with them. Like, I don't view them as competition. Like, we each have our guys that we like really focus on. We're not looking to expand much more. We're not in the poaching business.
So just one more on this, and then we got to get to some drama and tea, because the people watching this will fucking roast me if I don't ask you certain questions. But
dude, I'm free after this half an hour if you want to go as long as you want.
Okay, all right, good. So when I said before about networking, kind of the way I look at it, it's give and take, right? I want to ask for something, but I also want to provide value instead of just asking, right? You look at it a little different, and obviously what you're doing is working. When you were 13, what was the purpose of the executive at the Nets meeting with you? Like, how did you pitch it? Like, can we just talk or what?
I am a big fan. I want to learn. I'm trying to learn the sports industry. I'd love to learn more from what you're doing. But also, like, nobody goes over to the head of ticket sales and asks that, right? Like, somebody might go to the CEO, but who the fuck goes to the VP of ticket sales?
Nobody.
But exactly. Find the hole, right? Like, if you want to permeate an industry, learn everything. So be a student of the game. And that's like the thing is, I've been a student of the game at everything I've tried. And that's the biggest thing. Like, read, learn. Like, even Josh, like, for 6 months when he started working with me, like, I only started working with him, really, really, really started working with him when he moved out of Sway House. So I don't know when that was, but like right after Memorial Day, I think. That's when I really started working with him every day. Until then, I we talked like every couple of days, and my team worked with him. I never was direct.
When you talk about networking and studying the game, I'm sure you get messages all day from aspiring influencers, right? Sign me to Talent X, give me advice. How do I get verified? How do I blow up? That's kid's number one dream now, is to become an influencer and be in a house like Sway or whatever. Like, what advice do you have for them? As far as studying the game, networking, how to become successful, like how do you do it? Obviously you need talent and a voice first, but then
I don't know if you need talent. Here's the genuine truth.
So?
No, I don't. Here's the genuine truth. I have no god fucking idea how to become an influencer. Nobody does. It's like, look, there's two different types of influencers. There's like the Mr. Beasts that have a very clear way of becoming famous, right? And they just are the best at what they do, and it's like not even close, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they're just so unique. Then there are guys like Josh and Griff and all these guys. Like, I don't want to say it's luck, because I definitely think there's like, there's something, but a lot of it's happen chance, right? A lot of it's right place, right time, right moment, right thing. I don't know. I can't recreate that. I have no fucking clue how to do it. What I know how to do is take things and monetize and influence, and take influence and create things around it. That's what I do every day. I don't ever try to get involved in their social media. I don't ever tell them what to put on YouTube. I don't even watch their videos. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I couldn't tell you any of Josh's last YouTube videos. Not a single one. I haven't watched one. Not one.
You leave that up to him. You let the creators create and you handle the business, right?
Well, I'll just end up getting pissed, right? Like there's stuff in there I don't like, and it's like I'll end up getting annoyed. I just don't watch it.
Yeah.
Why bother? Well, it's not going to accomplish anything for me. Like he's not going to listen, so let him do it. I don't get involved. It's also it's too much time. Like I don't have time.
Talk about all the drama too. I got to bring this up. So there's always shit. There's always shit in the house constantly, and you are pulled into some of it. First question that people want to know is Dave Portnoy breaking apart Sway. Is he ruining Sway?
I mean, ruining Sway. Like here's what I think of Sway. Like legitimately, Sway is kind of like were you in a fraternity in college?
No, I wasn't.
Sway is like the fraternity that you were a part of, that you're really proud to be a part of, and you're excited about it, and you're glad it happened, but you kind of grew out of it. And I think that's like where Sway is like really having a tough identity crisis right now. For Josh and Griff, like they do view it as the fraternity in a way that it just grew out of a little bit. You know, like they're on the next. Like Josh looks back at it very fondly, but it's just they grew out of it. And for Bryce and Blake, I mean, and it's part of their brand, right? Like their brand is like Bryce's brand is Party Animal University. He doesn't like that. That is his brand, and that's where this weird like place has been for a few months now, prior to Portnoy, right? Like I don't believe people do shit, right? Like what really happens is people like amplify it or make it like grow quicker or something like that. Like Portnoy didn't do shit. All they did was say like something that's been clearly there for a few months. And kind of make it more on like the front page and more known, but just an identity crisis. And I trust that Bryce and Blake, who really are the fathers at this point of Sway, will find that answer. But it's a startup, man. It's like any startup, right? Like they're having a little of a messaging crisis, and they're going to find an answer to it. And I know that for sure. By the way, like I know that Bryce, like he's smart. Like that's the one thing about Bryce people don't understand is he's actually a smart kid. Yeah. Just objectively like an intelligent human being. And I know that Bryce will find an answer to it. I think that this is like, they didn't expect to be thrown into startup life this quickly. And this really is a startup. Like I view everything as a startup, and they're in a startup. Their startup is Sway House, and the startup is hemorrhaging a little bit, but I know that, like it'll work. I mean, look, for example, when Josh and Jaden left, they found Blake and they found Noah, right? Like, they've done this before. Like they figure out how to fix things and make it better and bigger and come back better than ever before. And I know that, Bryce will do that. Like I'm not nervous about that. However, like that's the thing. People hold on to like Sway, and it's like Sway hasn't been Sway for months, right? Like Keo's doing his own thing. Yeah. Jaden's in the music world. Josh is doing a lot of business. Griffin's kind of hybrid. Like it hasn't been the Sway that everyone likes to know of anyway for the last couple months, but people seem to ignore that. It's weird. Like Anthony's doing his own thing. Like everyone's just doing their own thing, and the IP is there. And I Bryce has been, in a large way the custodian of that IP, and I put nothing past Bryce. Like Bryce could take Party Animal University and turn it into $1 billion empire, and I have full faith in that guy. Like legitimately, people that are sleeping on him are going to be sleeping on probably one of the greatest social media people of all time. I genuinely believe that.
Guys, I interviewed him twice. Check out the second interview I did with him. The first one was just all drama, him and Addison, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
But the second one was all business, and I was really impressed. I could have talked to him for another hour. I was really impressed at how he looked at social media, how he learned some lessons along the way, and go, okay, maybe going to jail is not a fun thing. Like maybe I should focus my energy over here. And here's the truth.
Bryce is talent, right? Like Josh is not as much talent. Josh is a lot more kid trying to hustle and be an entrepreneur. Bryce is talent. Like he's the hardest hustler when it comes to his content. The dude will go to he's creative as hell, always thinking of crazy things to do. Like that's just how his mind thinks. And that's like, people don't understand, like a lot of this stuff's mental. Like some people are just gifted, and TikTok doesn't really take much of that gift of itself, right? Like go look at these videos. It's not very creative. Like anyone could have thought of the stupid dance that you came up with or whatever. Like, or you have a 6-pack of abs and you like to show the whole world that it's like good for you. I'm proud of you, but it's not very creative. And that's the thing also, like a lot of people go like, oh, you guys are the creators, like figure it out, come up with these ideas. Like they're not capable of it always. Bryce can sit down and think of 100 ideas that are going to be crazier than the next. That's his gift. people need to silo their gift, right? Like
100%.
anything you love to do, you can monetize. And I mean, like, for example, you don't work in social media, but you figure out a way to like silo something you love, then you're going to make some money off of it. You're going to keep growing it, and you're doing a good job, and you're getting to the right people, and you become friends with the right people like myself that are going to keep, helping you.
And you've been a great help. And it's true. On paper, it makes zero sense why I'm somehow the influencer interview, and I just fell into it. That's a long story for another time.
Silo yourself. That's another big key life advice. Silo yourself.
Yeah.
Figure out what you love. And do it, and make it in your own way. Make it monetized. Anything you do well can be monetized. Every single thing you do well can be monetized. By the way,
Agreed.
Even napping, I can figure out a way to monetize it. It's like become the napping influencer. I'm not kidding. Like
brand deals with pillows and sheets and comforters.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I think anything can be monetized, anything can be done. I think people very much are like, oh, I can't do that. And that's something we always talk about here. It's like, you go look at the billionaires of the world, right? Like they're the unobtainable. People don't see them as approachable or I could get there. But that's why I like Josh and Griff so much, and like why I think they're a good spokesman for their generation, because they're just 18-year-old kids like coming from small cities. Like, Josh came from a small town outside Toronto. Griffin came from literally, I went to his house for Christmas, literally the size of like my room is their entire house. And that's not knocking on them. It's the opposite. Like people they hustled. They made things out of what they were growing up with. Like, they weren't the richest people. They built it on their own. Like Josh and Griffin, people don't get it. Like they work 11-hour days. Like Josh and Griffin work on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 hours a day on calls and emails and like docs. Like it's all, and and they film Monday. They usually film Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Like people don't get that, right? They think like, oh, they don't do anything all day. Like, nah, they take hard work to get to where they are. And we always say like they're the aspirational class. Like we want their fans to go like, we could do that too. They haven't done anything that's like, they haven't done anything that just took massive amounts of brains. They're not technologists. They're not coding. Like none of that shit. They're just hustling.
And they studied the game. When you talk to Josh from an 100%. Early age, he was looking at social media different than some kid in Toronto. He was looking 100%. At how do I figure out the algorithm? How can I drive more engagement? How can I can make money off live streams? How do I do that? How do I make more there? So there's some of that. And you're right. Like I do a podcast with Griffin. Everyone go check it out. But sometimes he'll send me, we try to figure out times we can do it. And then his assistant will send me a screenshot of his schedule, and it's fucking ridiculous on the days Michael was just talking about, where it's like, I got a half hour here, I got to take lunch, I got an hour gym that I'm not going to do anything during, but I have a half hour here after dinner, I can maybe do something. It's jam-packed. It's crazy. It's
pretty crazy. I mean, because the way we see it is, the social media life is X amount of time, right? Like on per usual. So we go, okay, well then if we have, let's say 6 months to a year left, and you really think about it, then each hour is amplified by 30x, right? Because they only have this amount of time to monetize and amplify this. So we really view each hour in today's day as 30 hours. So we always tell ourselves like, is this something we want to do in a year, or something we want to do right now that we could really amplify and make it 30x what's normal worth? And that's how we think of everything. So if we go ahead and party now, I always say like, you guys need to relax. It's fine. Just calculate that. That's 250 hours accumulative worth of value that you guys are blowing on something stupid. So just keep things into perspective.
It's like they're a professional athlete, similar career, right? Where your earning potential is early in your life, and you're not going to be making, where if you have a normal corporate job, you're going to be making more at 50 than you did at 20. Not in this world. You're going to be making a lot more at 20 for most people than you will at 50 years old. So you got to maximize, right?
That's also why we build up things that they're going to be able to do even after they leave social media. Right? Like we're always thinking about things we could build that are going to be like, Josh, like, what are you going to do in 5 years from now? So I want you to operate this company. I want you to be a part of this. So we put them into spots that they're going to be able to really amplify 5-10 years down the line and operate and run.
Smart way to look at it.
I mean, it's the only way to look at it. And if you're not looking at it that way, you're probably an agent.
Well, here, we'll get back onto things too, but I got to get these out. Are Josh and Bryce beefing? Or are they okay now?
Beefing is a strong word. I mean, I don't know what beefing means. They're definitely like on different career paths.
Not that. I mean, are they arguing? Are they enemies?
No, I know what you meant.
Have issues?
I know what you meant. I'm answering it. I'm just saying it's a very different. It's hard to say. Like, they're definitely not as active together anymore. But I think that's just like a separation of what they're doing, right? Like, they're not actively fighting. It's like I've seen our energy calls are on the same calls every week. I definitely don't think they're as close as what they were, but I think in large part they were a duo that's no longer a duo, right? Like, just like in a band breaks up, you're not as close as when you were together. It's just the nature of a band. And like, that's how I view it. It's a band, right? Like, it's people are too semantical of like, oh, are they talking or this? It's like, dude, they were part of a band. The band's kind of split up a little bit. Bryce is doing his thing. Josh is doing his thing. When they see each other, it's cordial. They're friends. Like, it's friendly. It's nice. There's no awkward tension, but their careers are in very different spots right now. Like, True. Bryce is doubling down entertainment, being like, trying to, I know some of the stuff he's up to, some of the stuff I don't even know, but he's very much doubling down on what he's doing. And so is Josh, right? Like, Josh is doing more sports stuff. He just signed a deal with Boomer and Carton. I mean, not Boomer and Carton, it's the Ultra Carton, whatever his name is, to be on WFAN every week. Like, Josh is very much focusing on sports and the Barstool stuff. Like, he's just in one path, and Bryce is doing another. And I love them both equally, and I hope they both continue to kill it.
Why do you hate Nessa? Everyone wants to know. What's your beef with Nessa?
I don't hate Nessa. The whole thing isn't even true. Like, that's the best part of it. There was a misunderstanding that occurred. I was calling someone else ugly in context, and Nessa didn't really understand what I was talking about. It was a reference that Josh understood. And then later, when that whole thing happened, Josh it's complicated. But long story short, I never called her ugly. You can ask her that. It never happened. She refused to apologize. I never even asked her to apologize. The truth. I just said, like, we sat down and she apologized to me because she thought I was calling her ugly, and then said it on the radio or whatever. I don't really care enough to like make her apologize. I don't like when people tell me to kill myself. It's not particularly great, but it doesn't really bother me either. I see her every day. I mean, if you see her all the time, I see her all the time. It's like cordial. Okay. I'm definitely not her like best friend, but I mean, we don't hate each other.
Okay. What
that whole thing was kind of stupid. Sure, yeah. I mean, people shit stir for the sake of shit stirring, but even the first time, like, I was defending Josh when that whole thing was going down, and I always defend Josh. I think people misunderstand like what actually goes on and how these people are actually human, and I think that TikTok room is an incredibly toxic platform. And just for like record, like, I don't think they're doing anything wrong. They're posting publicly available things, but it's not in context, right? Like, you're going to post an hour-long interview where I talk about Nessa lovingly. Obviously there's been some beef, but it's full context. I mean, if you take that video out and out of context, it's going to look a lot more bad or good, or has a lot more connotations that don't really occur throughout the entire interview. It's hard to check tone. Like, there's a lot of things, and that's any time people cut clips up. It's very difficult to know, like, in context what was being said or how the tone was, and I don't like it, and they're entitled to what they want, and I follow them. I think it's sometimes interesting, but I'll give you an example, right? Like, sometimes posting things just as is worse than posting it in context. Even they go like, look, we're letting you decide the context. It's like, right, but when you post a video of like Josh going on a trip for his birthday, and you leave out the fact that, number one, they live with each other every day. Number two, they go in a pod. Like, they did nothing wrong. They actually didn't see a single person outside of their pod, so they did nothing wrong. But on social media, everyone's like speculating for what happened, what didn't happen. Like, I'm not getting into what other people did, but people that flew for New Year's or whatever, they're on a plane being exposed to people, even in our private plane. They're going to stores or in a new place. They're just comparing apples and oranges. Like, there's clearly nothing wrong with going in your own pod to, a secluded place in the desert in their own house together. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, that's the same thing as if they were all at the house together hanging out. And people just want to throw shit. And I don't like that. I don't like that people do that. And I think that's something that TikTok room and other shade rooms have very much created a culture of that being acceptable. And by the way, like, People should stop saying kill yourself or fuck off or any of that shit. Like, it's just bad, and it's usually for no reason, and it happens on all sides, and it's really shitty. There's this weird notion of accountability that occurs to influencers that does not occur to other people in the world. Like, LA County picked up, like, the stay-at-home order was lifted. Why should the influencers be held more accountable than the rest of the state? It just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, I don't understand why people have this extra layer of accountability that occurs to social media influencers over real celebrities. Like, the celebrities aren't even treated the way these guys are treated, and it's unfair, and that's a very much a symptom, or, you know, I guess post symptom of social media shade rooms that have cropped up.
You know, it's funny. You made me think. I remember seeing something, maybe it was on one of the shade rooms, about Charlie D'Amelio was caught vaping. And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, one, she's over 18, so she's not doing anything illegal.
Not.
Oh, she's not?
She's not over 18.
How old is she? Get out. How old
I don't know.
is
It doesn't matter. I think 17, but it doesn't matter, right? Like,
but the point is, she's a kid, you know, who's going to smoke or experiment. Why is she held to such a higher standard than your kid who goes to high school and, you know, and vapes? What's the big deal?
Well, I understand, like, why they're held to a higher standard. It's just sometimes unfair, because, like, the CEOs that are criticizing these kids for partying are out partying too in Miami. They just don't get in trouble because no one knows who they are. And to me, it's just like, and I understand it. It's like, if you're, it's like, sometimes you're a CEO of a publicly traded company, you don't want to be associated with that drama. I get it, but we're just the holding system in culture today is really lopsided. And I, you know, even by the way, even old Nessa stuff, I always defended her. The whole Quran thing, like, was it great? No, but she didn't do it on purpose, clearly, right? Like, nobody was like, oh, it's the Quran, I'm going to dance to it and throw it back. It's like, everyone get over themselves. Like, seriously, get over themselves. By the way, I have the same fucking, like, people call me slur names for Jew. Like, whatever, move on. I don't get butthurt. Just
they really
get on with your life.
They really come at you like that?
Well, not as much fans, but you think in business in the world, I don't get fucking called a bunch of names, like, fat ass or whatever. It's like, okay, like, you having fun now? Like, move on. I don't, who gives a shit?
But
like, it's
how do you deal with it? Because, I mean, a lot of people can't deal with that. I laugh too at shit like that.
I'm a 143 IQ who graduated college at 18 years old and, you know, has made a really nice amount of wealth. And if you understand the technological landscape of what's going on, I'm not even a big believer your body's going to matter in 5 years with how Singularity and Neuralink and other companies are building. I'm investing in that stuff. So everyone goes, like, get in the gym. I go, I'd rather make the money to pay for the surgeries you won't be able to afford. Like, that's just the facts of life. No, but I'm not kidding. Like, the people that are, you know, yelling, it's like, go spend in the gym. It's like, dude, what people don't understand is, like, okay, what are you going to do when you're not making money now, that when you don't have a goddamn job in 5 years? Most of the jobs we have today, like, I forget the percentage, but like 70% of Americans are drivers in some capacity. The truck drivers, whatever, it's all going to be gone. Like, the technology is already there to get that away, whether it's, you know, Tesla or all these other companies that are popping up. You know, people like this company called, you know, Supersonic, Super Boom, that's creating jets that are 4 times faster, commercial jets, than like a plane. Like, people don't realize, like, the way technology is moving, their time is focused in the wrong place. Like, focus on being a part of the future instead of being a part of the past or the present. Like, I always say, cash is trash. You know, cash is only a piece of the past. Bitcoin's only a piece of the future. I'm not here to plug Bitcoin, but the point I'm making is, like, everyone's so held up on the present and the past, and not held up on the future. And that's why those people lose. And that's why people like me win. It's because we're seeing things in a different way. And I think people need to spend less time throwing shit at people they don't understand, and spending more time trying to read about what they're reading to understand what they're doing. Right? Like, I'm no idiot. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, I've built a lot of things in a lot of different spaces. It's because I have an ability to see things in a different way. And that's obtained, obviously, somewhat through a natural gift, but a lot of it's through just reading and researching and seeing a lot of companies that I want to invest in. Deep tech is scary, man. If people only knew what's going on, they would be a lot less in the gym and a lot more trying to be a part of the future.
What are you excited about in business? What companies are you excited about? What the ones that you're working on and ones you see in the market? Like, what gets you excited?
Dude, there's a company called Anduril that I know the founder, Palmer Luckey. The company is literally building Iron Man. Like, this dude created Oculus. You know, the VR headphone, the VR headsets. and now he's creating a company called Anduril, Anduril. They're literally creating Iron Man. Like, it's the number one most advanced military technology that's on the private market right now, right? Like, what happened with GameStop and all this shit, it's just showing more and more how Wall Street and other people are going to have to start adapting to what the younger generation is doing. And there's a lot of technology out there right now that is very, 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 very scary if for someone who doesn't understand AI and MI, right? Machine learning and ML, like all these things that are occurring in our universe are largely ignored. I was listening to Elon Musk last night on Clubhouse. He's talking about like their chip is going to allow like paraplegics to not be paraplegic anymore.
Wow.
like this already exists. Like they're already testing this on monkeys. Like, and they're testing right now, taking it out and putting it back in like a third time. Like people don't understand. Like when they're busy in the gym, I'm thinking how I'm going to become bionic. It's like we're just on different wavelengths.
What else gets you excited?
I don't get very excited, man. Like I'm an island.
What are you into? I guess. I mean, like, what do you think the future is for you and for these startups you're involved in? Where do you spend your time?
My belief is that Bitcoin will rise to be about $500,000 per unit. So in my eyes, I'm set forever. I own a very substantial amount, and I don't ever plan to sell it. It's called HODL. HODL means hold in Bitcoin language. It was one time somebody posted on a forum in capitals. He meant to write hold, but he was drunk and wrote HODL. It became like the infamous meme of hodling. So for me, everything I do at this point is fun, and that's why I always tell Josh and Griff, it's like when you guys are disrespectful, and when you guys are think that like you guys act like whatever, I don't care. Like I'll close this all down right now, shut my computer, and never talk to you guys again if you act like shitheads. It's like it's not what this is about. Right? Like we're partners, we're together, we build shit together, we have fun together. Then it becomes not fun, I don't want to do it. It's like the benefit of working with my best friends is amazing. Like I get to work with Josh and Griff every day, and I love them to death, and that's like the fun part of this. But the minute it becomes not fun, I'm out. And they kind of know that, right? Like I sit there every day and I work with them, and I'm happy to teach them the ropes. So I'm just happy to be building the shit I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of shit we have in the works. I can't talk about it, but I love helping founders out. They love helping founders out, and we're going to continue building and having fun doing it. And I'm excited, and I appreciate everyone who's like stuck by them. Honestly, like that, they've had their moments where it's been tough, but I think that there's a really good loyal fan base for each of them that have that we genuinely appreciate. I mean, wouldn't be here without them.
Oh, no doubt. So we're almost out of time, but I got two things. One, what did you buy Bitcoin at? I mean, just curious, like the big chunk you have now. Are you fucking serious?
I bought them though throughout. So like
sure.
A couple of $7. Got my credit card stolen actually on that one, but just been consistently buying. I didn't know whether Bitcoin would be it. I knew that an alternative currency was going to develop, and I originally I thought it would be video game currencies actually. I thought the video game currencies were going to be the future, and they did turn out to be a future, but it wasn't a very stable and long-term future, because ultimately your currency is being backed by game designers that have no understanding of economics. So it didn't last very long, but I did make a few $1 million selling and creating video game gold and selling accounts, etc. And then I just knew that like some form of commodity that's like decentralized was going to be a big thing, and I bought all of them. I ICO'd every one of them. And Bitcoin took off, so did Ethereum and others. Like, I'm a very big believer in alternative currencies. I see no reason why the dollar will last long term. I don't see how fiat as a general term will survive. Right, the U.S. dollar right now is creating an astronomical amount. Like people don't realize when you pass a stimulus, someone's paying for that stimulus. Right, when the government says we're giving each person $2,000 to like whatever. And I'm not saying it's not needed. I agree with passing the bill. I think it's needed. I'm just saying that money takes a hit on the economy because that money is being printed, right? They're printing that money. So fiat is just being regular. I
just saw a stat, and I'll probably get the number wrong, but it was like 60% of all currency was created in the last year. I mean, staggering.
The dollar. The dollar, yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not fucking good.
Our inflationary rate hasn't really hit yet, but I don't see the dollars. 100% it will. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? There's a lot of cash with prices haven't gone up yet, but just wait. When prices start going up, it's gonna be a real problem. I mean, that's the economy is a very, like, I don't know. People always tell me, like, why would you trust Bitcoin? No one backs it. It's like, I don't know. Why would you trust a dollar? The government backs it, that as irresponsible. So I'd rather have the thing that no one can touch. It's like, it's, by the way, it's another really cool one right now, trading cards. Like, in the trading cards, man, they're commoditized. Like, they're a commodity right now, a very scarce commodity, very similar dynamics to Bitcoin. Watch them start tokenizing it. There's a company called Star Stock that allows you to buy them, but you don't actually hold it. You just buy it. They keep it in their like safes, and you can trade it. Like, it's happening, man. Like, there's alternative currencies that are going to go bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're going to come from places you never expected, right? Like, they're going to come from places like trading cards that you never would have thought would be a thing. And people like, you know what? Same thing with like all these things, like Miami, right? Like, I always tell the guys, because we've done it moving to Miami, and I go, where
did that come from? I know you're like keyed in with the mayor and stuff. Why Miami?
Because who wants to be one of a million in a place, right? Out in LA, we're one of 1,000. We're not taking, the mayor clearly doesn't like us. He's made that very publicly clear. And why would I want to stay in a place where we're begging to be here? It's like, no, I'm gonna go to a place that wants us and wants to welcome us. And out here, we're just not unique. Like, it's like, we're out here, you're pigeonholed. You're immediately pigeonholed into being a TikToker. And I think that Josh and Griffin have done enough work outside of TikTok to be very reputable in multiple different categories. And it pains me when I see people refer to them as TikTokers. It's like, I don't know, should I refer to you as like journalist, whatever? Like, no, like you there's a part of you that there's multiple parts of you, right, that make you unique. I don't refer to Warren Buffett as like, I don't know, car dealer owner. Like, it's like, no, bro, he does 100 different things, owns 100 different companies. You're kind of putting him in like, if you called him car dealer owner, right, would be like really disrespectful to Warren Buffett. Or I call Bill Gates like Windows builder. Like, it's like, no, the dude's built 100 different things, owns Xbox, right? Like, Microsoft. Like, you can't put people in those types of pigeonholes. And that way, it's convenient because it gets clicks. In Miami, it's not like that. Up there, they don't really understand this type of culture yet. We want to show them what it really is like. And then that's not even talking about like tax benefits,
tax advantages. Fuck yeah.
But by the way, like, that's not even where my head's at with it, right? Like, tax advantages is just dollars. What really matters is, because it's not all about money. Like, people that are focused on building money and building wealth, that's cool. But you also need to build a message and a story, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Griffin's talking about building an esports team, and it's a the idea is to be a casual team to people to play at night, right? And I see him sometimes playing at 2 p.m. on a weekday, and I go, Griff, see, that's not in line with your own message. So when you're building your own brand, you got to be in line with your own message. You're saying this is about playing at night, and you don't want to play during the day. Like, it makes you look, it goes off message.
Yeah.
And people just like we're going to create that message in Miami, and we're going to build something. We're going to define what it means to be a social media influencer by saying we're not social media influencers. The opportunity there is endless, right? It's like, I think this is like Bitcoin at $1,000. Like, we're not early to the party, but we're not late to the party. I think that if you look at real estate prices there, it's going through the roof. If you go look at people like Keith Boy start moving there, Peter Thiel's spending a lot of time there. Tech is moving there. The elite of tech are moving there. And I like, and like, look what happened with LA and Elon Musk, right? They're like, fuck Elon Musk. You know what he did? He said, adios.
See ya.
And went to Austin. Like, they're going to shoo away everyone. And the way that LA is handling it right now is by being like anti-welcoming. They're telling people like, oh, we're going to tax, it's like, if you leave, you have to pay 10 years of tax. If you're here 2 months, you're going to pay California tax. Anyway, it's like, dude, that's the opposite way to handle this. Like, the way you handle this now is by encouraging the technologists and the people that are creating jobs to stay. Like, people don't realize, man, like, why do I need to be in LA for anymore? Like, everything's decentralized. And what the pandemic showed everyone was consumer behavior is changing. You don't really need to be in person, right? Like,
you could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, but that's why we started a podcast in the middle of the pandemic. I told Josh, I said, now's your opportunity to get away with having a podcast completely remote. I said, it used to be, if you did that, you couldn't do it. Now you could totally get away with it. Yeah. And that's like, people need to hop on these trends. Same thing with Instacart, right? Like, before, my parents never used Instacart. Now they're never going back. Consumer behaviors change. Like, if I'm the supermarket industry, if I own Kroger, I'm the CEO of Kroger or whatever, Ralph's, like, I'm thinking about how to create like non-store stores. Like, I don't want public stores anymore. I just want back ends, like, and be like sending out every day I don't want more stores.
Whole Foods is so advanced because you have Amazon. They have exactly what you're talking about. They have dark stores. So they look like a giant grocery store, but there's no customers. It's just for people to fill orders. That's it.
I think that's the future of the grocery industry. And I'm telling you, technology is changing things and the way consumer behavior. For example, I'll give you another one, airlines. Are you really going to go back on a flight now to like casual travel? Fuck that. I'm over it. No. I'm like, no, it's like, why would I bother? It's not even that I'm scared of the virus necessarily. It's just consumer behavior has changed. Like I found alternatives to like relax or do whatever I want to do or appreciate different things that I was never appreciating. I don't believe in traveling anymore to go to work. Like no more. It's not happening anymore. I'm never going to be someone who makes my employees work in an office. And by the way, what this also did was take the best employees, put them at the top, and take the worst employees and show you that they're the worst, right? Like it very much like the good sifted up. I mean, the good sifted at the bottom and the bad sifted up, and we're able to like dump it out. You know, every company got water strained, and that's what happened here. And yeah, it's Tom. What you're doing on your show is really unique and special, and I hope you keep at it. I know that you know it gets tough at times for you, Tom, but I just want you to know like you serve a value, and people don't necessarily appreciate the value you provide. You're one of the few people that are doing this that are not doing this for clout or gotchas, and I think that's like unique. And I hope that you find a home that's gonna one day that'll really just help you and embrace you and provide that infrastructure for you, because I know that what you're doing is God's work in the space. Like we haven't even gone into like the flaws of the agency world and why things don't work in the industry. And like, we can speak for hours on this. And I think
I could talk to you forever.
You're the only one that's even bothering to cover it. Like Taylor Renz does a really good job at covering specific parts, but it's she's not a generalist, right? Like she's covering a specific story and she goes very delving into that. You're much more generalist. It's like every week you're just you're shooting the shit with someone interesting, and I'm honored that you chose me for this week. And anytime you need anything from me, you always know to hit me up. Is there any other drama questions or
no?
Questions you want to ask?
I think we're good. The only other question I have is I got to eat lunch because I got another interview, in a half hour. But just general networking tips for the viewers of this are 18 to 24, want to be something someday. So you're the fucking master, networker. Give them some tips they can use.
Number one, don't ask for anything when you're trying to meet somebody. Number two, try to go for the underdogs. Don't go to the big name. Don't try to get in with the biggest name in the game. Try to go to someone under that or someone who's unknown. They're more likely to answer you, right? You're more likely to answer you. Be concise but funny, be concise but funny, and try to be very, very to the point. So it's like whatever you want. I usually try to make a couple jokes, be a little funny, but also be very specific with what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for something, or very specific, and I don't want anything from you. I want to just chat. Be someone who's always trying to introduce other people. Like what I always do is try to provide a peer that both people appreciate the introduction, so it's like, oh, if XYZ, CEO wants to play tennis, I introduce him to a tennis player who wants to get in, wants to be in tech. Like that's what I did the other day. It's like, that's like a providing value for both of them. So they both really appreciate that. And then you get credits in both camps. And it's a job, man. Like that's the biggest thing also, like take it super seriously. Like some people I know are really well connected. They don't like network properly. They don't take it seriously. So network dies. Like networks don't stay forever. You have to always be maintaining it, especially with bigger names, because they forget. Like you want to make sure you're always in their ear, but also making sure you're not being a bother. Also, one big thing: stop listening to like the advice online and then copy pasting what they tell you to write. Because how many times I get the Tom Bilyeu like copy paste thing, and it's like, I know then you don't give a fuck, right? You're just copy pasting. The bigger thing also is the more specific you write about somebody and show you actually know what they're talking about them, the more I'm likely to respond, right? The less of a copy paste it looks, the more I'm going to respond to you, And I actually have a call today with like a kid who, hit me up or a nice email. I'm like, yo, here's 15 minutes of my time. Like I try where I can, but I have to pick the ones that are going to be the strongest, to where I can really feel like I can help somebody. I'm not here to be on a call that's going to end up like wasting everyone's time, So I'm happy to help when it makes sense and when I can be an asset. Like show me why I can be an asset to your business, and I'm happy to get on the phone and help. And that's where it's like just you got to just create the narrative, right? Like Tom, if you were coming to me like, look, like, I got the show, I'm writer, I contribute for Forbes, I'm looking for guests, and here's what I'm looking for, and I want your advice on this and that. If I go, oh yeah, I could definitely help with that and give them some input, then I'll get on the phone with you. But if it's like, I can't really do anything there, so I'm just wasting my time, I'm not going to waste my time or your time.
Yep.
And I think that's like, if people forget value prop. Like everything has a value prop, and also just make sure you're ready for the call, right? Like two things. For one, make sure you're prepped. If you're going to get on a call, make sure you're goddamn prepped. Don't show up like a fool. But number two is some people jump to the top of the food chain when they really shouldn't be at the top of the food chain. And then people don't reply, right? So it's like, if you're looking for something like just advice, maybe don't go to the CEO if you're not notable. Like maybe go to like the VP or, director. Like they might be able to be a better help for you. Somebody asked me today, like, I need a mentor for XYZ. I didn't introduce them to the CMO of the company. It was a marketing question. I introduced them to like a former VP friend of mine. He's really, really good, who can be that level of help. They'll actually care enough to like answer your question and take the time, right? Because it's not helpful to get 10 minutes of someone's time and then expect because I'm not going to keep in touch with you. It's very tough, right? Like,
sure.
You want to make sure you're hitting your spot and then grow it and grow. Like when I started, the VPs would be like, oh, here is this person to talk to. They wouldn't take the time. They didn't spend 5 minutes and give it to the other person. But you build it up. And as you build your own credibility, and reputation is so important too. Like my reputation is, and I'm proud of it, is kind of like he's a douche, but he's very, very loyal, and he gets done everything he says he's going to get done. He takes care of what he says he's going to take care of. And that's what you want. Like, I mean, the douche part's whatever. I don't really like that one. But the point is, like, you want the reputation of, like, he gets it done. He says he'll get it done. He does it. And I tell you, Tom, I do something, I always do it, right? Like,
you
always on it.
I've seen it.
Like,
yep.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, right? Like, say no to things you don't want to do, but make sure that you're always on top. Whenever you see you do something, get it done. Never, and do it in the moment, too. The worst thing people do is they go, yeah, like I'll do it, and then I'll do it for a month, or people forget about it. Like just fucking do it on the phone, and like that's so unique, and no one does it that it stands out. Like just stand out. Like, that's what it comes down to. And Michael, write. The more you write. The more you write in like writings, like use Medium articles, etc. Shows if you can show that you have credibility and knowledge in the space, the more inclined people are to talk to you. Journalism and writing is a very, very important part of networking.
100%. I completely agree. Michael, you said it all. I mean, we've been at this an hour and a half. We talked about Orthodox school. We talked about Nessa. We talked about talking to the director of ticket sales at the Nets. I mean, I think we covered everything.
I'm glad. And yeah, I mean, I hope I cleared up any confusion people have. People are always looking for drama when it's not always there. And if it's there, sometimes it's not meant for public consumption. But there really is like, I live with Josh, Griffin, Jaden, Quentin, and Anthony. Like there really isn't any drama here. We're all like friends, and it's really like a good time. And the only thing about it here is you can't buy anything unless if you want it for yourself. Anything you buy, it's up for grabs. So that's the only downside of living in this house. So I order pizza. It's like it's not your pizza unless you got it the minute it came. Whatever, that's the only problem. But other than that, it's a fun time, and we have a really nice time out here. So
all right,
can't get any better.
Wish you continued success. Thank you for everything you've done to help me and continue to do to help me. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, guys. We do this twice a month, 3 times a month, whenever we have good guests. So we'll keep them coming. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, brother.